Hello, my name is Lilika. Metacognition is an awareness of one's own thought processes and an understanding of the patterns behind them. The term comes from the root word meta, which means beyond or on top of. It is essentially thinking about thinking. Metacognition can take on many forms, such as reflecting on one's own thinking and knowing when to use certain strategies for problem solving. Oftentimes when we're studying or learning something new, we can kind of get stuck in blinders, kind of get stuck in a box and struggle to think out of the box and out of our own point of reference and point of view. Metacognition is a way you can try to get yourself out of that box and thinking about new creative ways you can maybe improve the way you go about doing things, whether that's studying, learning, working, whatever it may be. There are generally two components to metacognition: knowledge of cognition and regulation of cognition. In other words, you need to know about what you're thinking and then be able to change what you're thinking given certain situations and what would be efficient in a certain problem. It's the capability of an individual to take apart a complex problem in order to understand the components in the problem. These are the building blocks to understanding the big picture of the main problem through reflection and problem solving. One example of a strategy you can use that involves metacognition is just the use of mnemonics. A mnemonic is a word, sentence, picture, device, or technique for strengthening memory. It uses mnemonic tools such as imagery to encode specific information with the goal of creating an association between the tool and the information. If you ever watched Sherlock, the series, you'll know all about this concept called the mind palace, where essentially you'll picture a place you know very well, such as the street you grew up in, and then, for example, you will place a piece of information that you would like to remember in each house in the street, and you'll memorize it like that. So when you go to recollect that information, you'll imagine yourself walking through the street and each house will hold a specific piece of information that is then easier to recall because you used a place that you're very familiar with. However, metacognition isn't just about memorization. It is more so about the improvement of your learning and the strategies you use to learn given a certain subject or a certain problem that you need to solve. The easiest way to go about implementing metacognition into your learning and actually think about it and be aware of the way that you learn instead of just kind of trudging along and going through the sausage machine is to ask yourself questions before, during, and after a task. So, for example, before a task, you can ask yourself, what about this task is similar to another task that I've done? What's the goal of this task? And what would the first step be if I were to go about doing this task? Then, during the task, you can ask yourself, am I closer to my goal? Is what I'm doing currently actually working? What can I do differently? What is confusing to me? And what could I potentially ask for help about? Then, after the task, you can ask yourself another set of questions. What patterns do I recognize within the task that I just did? What are my strengths and my weaknesses, and assess them? What about what I did worked and what didn't quite work so well? Can I explain this to someone? That's a very good one because that really tests your understanding. And what would you do next time if you were faced with a similar type of task? These questions will help you be able to plan more effectively when you have to do tasks that are similar to the ones that you just learned about in the future. Assess your strengths and weaknesses more easily and accurately. And because of that, overall help you improve your learning. This doesn't just relate to you in school when you need to study or anything like that. You can use it in your life in general when it comes to relationships and friendships and the ways you go about interacting with people. If you just think about what you're doing, take a second instead of just going on with the motions and think about what you're doing and ask yourself those questions that I mentioned before. And chances are you'll find yourself really improving yourself and the way you go about living your life in general. But that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you liked it, leave a like, maybe subscribe. A video I would suggest you watching is one I made on space repetition, specifically the flashcard technique that I use when I was doing my IGCSEs and AS levels for Cambridge International. But thank you so much for watching this video. I'll see you in the next one and good luck on your studying journey.